Hey, in this video I'm going to look at the Moog D-Fan, the drummer from Another Mother. It's just going to be a quick short review, some of the pros and some of the cons I've found from using it in the last 12 months or so. And I'm also going to talk about why I recently considered selling this and how I managed to talk myself out of it. Possibly only briefly though, so stick around. So, the Moog drummer from Another Mother. According to Moog's own website, there is no experience necessary for these, and to a degree it's probably preferred. It's very much the ultimate happy accident machine, despite Moog's website declaring the sequencer as easy to use, which no doubt it is, so long as attempting to tune pitch isn't really a serious consideration for you. But that said, it's no different in that respect to other types of analog sequencer, so long as you have hands the size of an ant's paw. Or whatever it is that ants have on the ends of their arms, if ants even have arms. Anyway, another claim they make is that it has endless interconnectivity, which kind of ended the minute I picked up a MIDI cable and stared at it blankly for a second or two. It appears it's designed only for endless connectivity with CV cables, with no MIDI, no USB, which is no big deal. It is a fully analog synth after all. But to tout it as having endless interconnectivity, it's a little bit brazen. One of the biggest pains that I've found with it is that it's virtually impossible to replicate a patch. Anything that you're doing, you're not going to be doing it the next day. In fact, with the stability that I've found on this, anything that I've been doing, I've not been doing 15 minutes from then either. Stability is not always an issue, but there's been a few times where it's just kind of wandered off, drifted off to do its own thing, and I've struggled to get it back again. One of the other things regarding it is it can be noisy at times, and I know that a lot of analog gear kicks out background noise, but this seems especially to do so. Having said all of this, and I don't mean to sound negative about these because I do really like them, the two VCOs, the 3 envelope generators, the 4-pole Moog ladder filter, typical high-low pass switching, and the 24-point patch bay is still, you know, it's great to have in a unit like this. I'm going to be covering the patch bay in depth in my next video, so if you haven't already subscribed, please do so, and we're going to cover the patch bay and the internal routing and a few tips and tricks from the design perspective of these to help us understand how they work. So in summary, the pros for these are just that it's so unique sounding, and it really is unique sounding, and I find it inspirational in that sense, and this is one of the reasons I want to hang on to it. It's not great for connectivity, obviously, as they claim, but I do think it'll go nicely in the rack. Another pro is that it's just unbelievable fun. The fun factor on these is second to none. It's a complete time sucker. It kind of eats time and shits beats really, but it's great. It's a really good way to lose an afternoon. Moog have also included a really good manual for these, and that's available online if you've not got one with the unit that you bought, if you purchased it used or second hand. And they cover a lot of great points to help anybody who's beginning synthesis to understand these and to get the most out of them, which is what they want. The cons are obviously no MIDI or USB control, which is it's just an oversight, and there's a good reason for this and why it doesn't have it, and also a reason for why the sequencer appears incomplete. And I'll be covering that in my next video also, where we look more in depth at the build of these and how the patch bay works. No reset is the biggest pain, having to manually advance it to step 8 anytime you stop or start a sequence on any other equipment. Just to keep the D-Fan in sync with whatever you're doing. It's okay if you remember, but if you forget, then you know you've kind of screwed it and you have to kind of start all over again. The micro knobs are a huge drawback on the sequencer, because they have a 10 octave range, which is just, it's a huge range with such a tiny movement. You have to be kind of exact and setting up perfect pitch on each one. It takes time, so it is very time consuming, and and it also helps if you have a good knowledge of synthesis, if you want to try and coax a particular sound from it. It's very much geared towards modular use, although being the drummer from another mother and useful in its own standalone right, it is better, much better I think, suited to a rack. And that's definitely the form factor they've gone for there. The sounds it makes are great. They're perfect for techno and industrial, so it's a lot of sounds that I like, that I enjoy making. But it is tricky to integrate it into a studio, and this is something worth bearing in mind about how you're going to use it and what you want out of it. One of the best ways to get it to fit into any music that you want to make, unless you just want to play with it as a standalone box, is to sample it and play with the samples. Although a much cheaper option would be to look for the sample packs available online for these. At £550, it's a lot of money for a fart machine. It's definitely not what I'd call a drum machine, and there are plenty of other drum machines out there for that money that could do the job 100 times better, much easier, but not with the same feel to them really, and the same feel to the sound either. Anyway, I hope this has helped somebody. As usual, please do comment down below any questions, like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe. I've done a few videos on semi-modular, and some of the topics covered in the other videos still apply to the DFAM as well, so it may be worth checking those out. Anyway, many thanks.